All right, so we have Sean Heatley here, the one and only, the famous. Sean and I have known each other for several years, and I was on Sean's radio show a few years back. But I think our biggest claim to fame together was when we played professional football,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yes. For 7 minutes.
That's right. For 7 minutes on, it wasn't even a practice field. It was on the Stars. I don't even know what they call that field, but there were dogs roaming around on there. There were kids, but
Yeah. I just call it the field to make the story sound better.
yeah, it was a Dallas. We played. You and I played on a Dallas Cowboys field together, and we played with some professionals, right? I think
Absolutely.
there was I think maybe Tyler was there. Someone was there that was.
It was at least
professional
one.
some point.
At least one.
Yeah. So you may have seen Sean on the football field, but more than likely you've heard about him on his radio show, or you bought one of his amazing golf carts. He's the owner of Epic Carts up there in Frisco, Texas. And I won't do it justice in describing it, but they're kind of badass golf carts. Maybe the best ever is the way I would describe them. Is that fair?
Well,
is that a fair statement?
That is very bold. Yeah, they are.
Okay.
They are we designed them around what people wanted, right? And so when people get what they want, they're generally happier. So, right?
Yeah.
That's a good business plan.
All right. Maybe at some point in the show, don't do it now because we don't want to distract them from the message. At some point, Sean may give us a quick view of some of his Epic carts. But Sean, so I'm glad that you hopped on with me because you're a guy that lives in a state of gratitude and abundance, and just based on what I know about you and I've seen about you, on social media and through mutual friends, is that you really got a great mindset, and I see that carrying through right now, even in all of this adversity. When I was interviewing Emmett last week, Emmett and I talked about adversity being the birthplace of innovation or of creativity or ingenuity. And so I'm wondering with you right now, like, do you believe that? Do you feel that? And like, how are you handling this adversity?
So when you're an entrepreneur, I often tell people it's one of the loneliest places on earth because you have mentors, you have friends, but at the end of the day, the sounding board is you, right? And sometimes you chat with your wife, your brother, whoever you can, but ultimately it's your call. And so for us, when we bought Epic Distribution, where we are now, we took over in November of 17. So the company had gone through some troubled times, the former partners, and we just kind of dissolved that story and took over. And it's not a public story we talk about, but a lot. But from a private perspective, it was my first true feeling of failure as a business owner. And that cycle, which took probably almost 2 years to get out of, just, emotionally, financially, et cetera, has absolutely prepared us for this moment. Right. And so that fear of failure to me is, if you've owned a company and it was great times the last 10 years, and now this moment is your first failure, it's really difficult to deal with. I mean, this is out of your control. It's so no matter how perfect your business plan might've been. And so, but it's that ability to adjust and not be paralyzed that we were kind of chatting with before the interview was, I don't think if you've experienced failure as a business owner, it's more difficult to instantly go, right? Like it's more instantly to shift gears and to address that failure or fear is really more what you're addressing. And so, owning your own business is already tricky. And now you introduce this globalness to it. And so it's, for a lot of people, I think it's going to be a struggle to just admit the failure, regroup, readjust either in the existing name, the existing strategy, or completely, take a left and recreate something else. But the true entrepreneurs probably have failed often and maybe are better prepared for it. I think there's this huge bucket in the middle, like I was 2 years ago, that had never truly failed. And the fear, the guilt, the embarrassment of all that is really tough to say out loud to people. And once you begin to say it out loud and go, hey, own it, like it's okay. Like I'm not the first guy to fail. When you start to own it, it starts to feel a little bit better. But it does take some time, and the challenge with time in these circumstances is to not dig the hole too deep. financially, right? And so it's I'm incredibly empathetic, but because we've gone through what we did, as a family.
Yeah, when you're talking, there's one word that came up for me that I want you to elaborate on, because I think you've gone through a similar journey that I have, is ego. It seems like, we have this ego and like, well, people don't, I'm not a failure. I don't fail. That's not who I am. And I'd be embarrassed if I was at, a certain place instead of up here. Was that kind of part of your journey, is like letting go of that ego that gave you some peace and knowing like, if I fail, I'm still Sean, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ego is a massive part of the story, because you have to, and when you own your small business, you have to tell this narrative that this is what I believe you had to say out loud, was everything's fine. Everything's perfect. We're not having any trouble with receivables or payables or bookkeeping, or you want to tell this picture perfect story. And to say you got a dent in your armor out loud it takes a tremendous amount of confidence, checking the ego at the door. But you can't just check it all right at once. You have to do it in little bits. And at least me, I had to do it in little bits and pieces. I had to talk to enough mentors that had succeeded in life and said to me, dude, I have face planted, I have tripped, I have fallen, I have stumbled, and those made me stronger. And you podcasts and people stories and lunches and having those chats with third-party people, like, you had to get outside of your bubble somehow, right? And a lot of us get trapped in there, because you need to hear those stories to remind yourself that there is no perfect business out there. I don't care whose it was. It doesn't matter how big, how small. That's a myth. There is no perfect business. And the sooner you can admit that and try and admit your weaknesses and strengths and get people to help you with those weaknesses. Right now may be a huge weakness moment. I don't know how to retool my company. That may be the question for some people. I don't know what to do. This is what I know I'm good at, but I don't know how to change the message, change the narrative. But you got to get help fast. And I think there's so many great people out there right now, mentors, coaches, consultants that are willing to put that hat on for a bit. But it's taking that first step and asking is so hard.
Yeah. I mean, entrepreneurs don't like to ask people for things. Like, we're the providers. We provide the jobs and the paychecks, and we're supposed to have all the answers. And so that's been a journey for me just over the last couple of years. And it's gotten a lot easier for me now, is it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not know something, to say you don't know something. And what I love about the moment we're in now is you and I don't get on Zoom calls regularly. Like, we don't talk to each other every day on Zoom, but we're talking now. And I've got all of these dozens of other business leaders and community leaders that have signed up to chat with me, because there's an abundance of goodwill and pay it forward and time that experts and business and community leaders are willing to give right now. So if, like, you're an entrepreneur that normally doesn't ask for anything, or you feel bad, or you got this ego that you should know everything, I'm telling people, take advantage right now of phoning a friend, emailing someone you never thought would respond to your email, and there's a good chance that they're going to respond back and give you some good advice.
Yeah. And, we started interning, high school kids, in the summers, and come teach them, what a wrench is and a screwdriver, and come build a cart, and just some, basic skills that maybe a lot of us as kids were forced to learn, change a tire, do an oil change, and others weren't. And that's just kind of the way life has gone. But we're constantly, pushing these kids to do that stuff. Your goal by the end of summer is build a golf cart. But one of the things I tell all of them is, I always remember the T-Mobile commercials, like, who's your five? And I translated that to a business context and said, okay, there's accounting, there's legal, there's marketing, there's these different major pillars in your business. And I need a mentor that excels at each of those pillars. And so when I'm struggling with that topic, they kind of know my story. I don't have to tell the whole story. And I can just go, hey, this, remember this from 90 days ago, last year, whatever, here's where we made this progression and now we've hit this bump, but it's in the context of their subject matter. And so we really push a lot of, like, those young kids to start building that. Somebody told me that in college, and as I was entering my work world later, I think I accidentally did it. I just happened to find people. But if I had consciously thought about, hey, I don't want to be friends with them because they're that thing, but if the relationship naturally carries forward, it's good to understand, like, subject matter experts in those things. And the worst part for a lot of us as small business owners is the cash flow prevents you from hiring the best lawyer or the best CPA or the best, like, if I had done better book setup 2 years ago, 3 years ago with an actual CFO like-minded person, I would have saved myself $3,000 later for redoing the books and doing all those things. And so those are the moments I can see where people now could get some of that help and really look at, hey, maybe their business is doing okay, but it's still a great time to get help. And so don't take advantage of the moment and figure out, how to better improve yourself today. We make a constant statement here. How do we make our day? How do we become more epic today than yesterday? And in that context. And so, and it doesn't have to be like, save the world. It could be build a cart a little better, turn the inventory a little faster, have a little less in receivables. And so how do you make today incrementally better than yesterday? And, and to do that, often you need metrics and goals and help. And so that's just kind of the way we operate. We're not perfect, right? Like we're a story. We're in the middle of an acquisition right now. We're trying to get acquired from 90 days ago before this started. And so that's created a, its own narrative, that's like, what are they thinking? And what's, anyway, it's a different world we're in.
Well, you're a very well-connected guy. You've had this radio show for several years. You're running for Frisco ISD board trustee, right?
Yeah.
You talk to people all the time up in Frisco, and Frisco, we've got listeners all over the country, but Frisco is consistently fastest growing, best places to live. It just got the PGA headquarters there. The Dallas Cowboys headquarters is there. You guys arguably in Frisco know business, what to focus on to get the results that you want as a city, and have a demonstrated track record of doing that. You talk to a lot of people all the time. What are you hearing from people that maybe have lost everything but have this positive mindset? Do you have any anecdotes or people that you've talked to where you go, man, that guy has every right to feel horrible, but for whatever reason, he's fine, or he's even better than fine, in a state of abundance or gratitude? Anybody you've talked to recently, you don't have to name names, but that you've heard?
Well, so we have we about a year and a half ago started a weekly luncheon. Ironically, it's at the Frisco Gun Club, but it's a faith-based conversation luncheon, right? And so we just meet there because it was a great venue, and they were happy to let us eat there. But so there's a guy named Melchior that kind of navigates and narrates the group forward, kind of coaches the conversation. And so for a year, it's been a cycling dozen-ish guys, right? Sometimes we're all there, sometimes half of us. So it just rotates. And then we switched to Zoom calls about, a week ago, and started picking up people in South Africa and New York. And so the circle expanded, right? But the constant message from all the different circles was this: having a grounded place, whatever that place is for you. For some people, it's, religion. Some people it's exercise. Some people it's the family. Some people, like, whatever your grounded, constant stuff you're thankful for, like, that's your baseline, right? And all this other stuff, the money, the power, the entrepreneurism, the big businesses, like, those were interesting wins and progress, but those aren't your foundation. They're not who you are. And so when you have these moments, what I've heard on those calls is people beginning to, one, admit their fears out loud in every context, not just business, just these are my fears as I sit here talking to 12 strange men. And then, so saying those things out loud, which better prepares them, I think, mentally to start dealing with it. But for the other 11 listening, we get to hear it. And so we get to hear their fears and go, hey, it's not that different from what's in my brain right now, or here's how I'm compartmentalizing that, or this is how I'm dealing with it, or just anecdotal stuff. But it takes, as an advice moment, I would say, get out into that circle, find that group of 10 people, go to a Bible study, or get into a running group or a cycling group that's socially distant, whatever that is, but find an outside narrative to hear other perspectives, hear other opinion, get other advice. And you may have some bonds that generate along the way. My next door neighbors what got me started into that group. it's allowed our relationship to go to a deeper level through that year and a half of talking about faith and other things that are in our lives, raising kids, being a dad, that are far more impactful than where do you work, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so find that group, find that, seek it out, be uncomfortable, and get out there and, you know, find it.
It reminds me of Brene Brown. I'm a big Brene Brown follower, and my wife absolutely loves her. And Brene Brown talks about vulnerability as courage. It's not weakness. And what I'm hearing you say is now is a time to be vulnerable around your peers, your business colleagues, with your friends. Admit your fears and weaknesses. And it's kind of counterintuitive as a path to get to greatness, or right, this kind of superior mindset. You feel like you might be taking a step down, but what I'm hearing is the moment you do that, you're actually taking a step up. You're moving towards what you want.
Yeah, and you create a you get fresh input, which is interesting, I think, for all of us to constantly do. Some people read books every week, and some people do podcasts, but you know, whatever your control mechanism is, or your input mechanism is great. But beginning to formulate and say it out loud beyond your own brain is, like, to me, the most healthy part of it. And like when we began to say, you know, as an entrepreneur, I failed 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, that saying it out loud was way more impactful than just letting it marinate in my head. And getting that confidence to overcome it it takes, I think, repetitiveness for a lot of us. You know, we're stubborn.
Yeah. Especially guys. Guys are stubborn. Yeah. I've been told that by many women, namely my wife.
Yeah, we are stubborn. So, but it's, you know, it even saying it at home, right? Just outside your family, and say, hey, you know what, business is rough, but here's the specifics, right? And get down to the details and spend some time. There's a guy, Rich Allen, you know him probably from around town, but I was listening to we went to one of his training class years ago, and I remember it vividly, like, he's like, you need a blue sky day as a business owner, and you need to sit there and you need to turn the phone off, you need to turn the computer off, and you need to think about what's happening now, your strengths, your weaknesses, and what's a plan moving forward for a number of hours, right? Not 30 minutes, not 10 minutes. And that blue sky day, I think this pandemic has forced some of those blue sky days because people have some more time. And so it's going to be really interesting to see the mass market shift and what comes out of it and the messaging that happens. But I hope that people that are struggling, you know, find these moments to invent their blue sky day, right? And you know, I think one of the biggest challenges of Chamber of Commerce is and I've told this to Tony Felker in Frisco too, is like, you know, acknowledging and opening and having all the businesses around, small, medium, or large, is all good, but what can a chamber do to save them, and the resources they can do, and how do we save as many of these small businesses as we can and enhance them and help them grow? And it takes a different kind of effort, and it takes people like yourself who are willing to put yourself out there and, you know, 15 meetings a day and get more input, and then put it in a format the rest of us can listen to. It's really helpful to, you know, just add that dialogue to the deck. It's amazing.
Yeah, man. I'm so glad you said that, because I interviewed a mindset coach in Austin, this PhD mindset coach, Jack Allen, and I encourage you to listen to his episode, everyone that's listening. We can't solve this with money. We can't give people enough money to get their businesses back on track, because I think the biggest issue is up here, is how we're thinking about what happened and what we're going to do next. And so the more good content we can put out, and the more, like you were saying, find that group of people that you can be connected with, that's what's going to, like, spur innovation and creativity and a belief in yourself and confidence that you can get out of this. Yeah, my business has zero in revenue right now. I'm speaking personally, right? I'm in a business that is doing nothing. And so, but I'm keeping my mind fresh. I'm talking to Sean Heatley, I'm talking to Jack Allen, I'm talking to Emmett Smith, I'm talking to people where I go, oh, wow, I didn't think about it that way. This is actually a moment to do something different, or invest in myself, or invest in my business in some way. So I'm glad that you said that, because I do think the Chamber of Commerce is that hub in most local cities that has a huge opportunity to help them. And it's not financially, that's not where people need it most, I don't think.
No, I think resources are it, but it's meaningful and I guess searchable resources, right? It's not just collecting them all and pushing them out, right? It's how can I inquire about it? How do I ask specific questions? This is my pain moment as a business owner today. How do I get guidance on that question? And that's as a, as an entrepreneur or small business owner, sometimes you're not wording the question quite right. And you need somebody to re-articulate it or to circle back. So having that verbal conversation or hearing it like that sounds like my problem, it's just said a little bit better, enables you to go then do the research and get a little more help the right way. But it's you've got to find a good foundation of people, I think, to do this. And you've got a ton of mentors and business partners and things like that. And I'm sure some of them right now you're reaching out to considerably more than maybe you did before. And you're probably finding new ones through this channel that you're doing with all these podcasts, which now will be a future reference for 12 months down the road for the next challenge. And you're going to win because you're putting yourself out there for one, and you're listening. And that's going back to our stubborn conversation. Listening is often the most difficult thing as a small business owner as well, because it's not your vision, it's not your thing, but maybe your vision or thing needs a little help.
Yeah, I'm a horrible listener. I'll admit that right away. I hate listening, but I'm trying to do as much as I can right now because I need to listen. Hey man, I'd like to end as many of these shows as I possibly can talking about gratitude. I really feel like being in that state of gratitude, it's impossible to feel fear. It's impossible to feel uncertainty because you're just full of what you have, and not the opposite of that. And so, what are you focusing on right now in terms of what you're grateful for, whether personally or professionally, that gives you some peace, some solace, and gets you focused in the right direction?
Yeah, so we're coming off with not knowing when people watch this, but today's the Monday after Easter, right? And so we had a great, we were able to get, fortunately, our family was healthy, and my folks were there, my brother, we had a social distance Easter spread out across my parents' front yard. The family picture was about 30 feet long because we all had our proper gap. But as we were going through that picture and just spending the few hours together in the sun, it was just, you felt good about that. In that particular moment, everyone was healthy. We had a roof over our head. Our basic fundamentals were met, right? And so I think sometimes we forget that as a culture and humans. We're focused on more, bigger, better, faster. And this has forced a lot of people, myself included, to say, hey, we're in a magnificent spot with what we have in our life. And so how can we help other of those around us in this moment satisfy those basic needs? And how can we help them, if they've already got it satisfied, how can we help them realize what a great place they are in? And, Facebook is an interesting thing because you tend to see the same 50, 100, 200 people circle the loop with your feed, and you forget outside of that little circle, there's a ton of challenges, and there's a ton of pain, there's a ton of sadness. And so you have to get outside that little circle if that's your habit, and go find and help those that need it. And so we're on I'm on the board of Frisco Fast Packs, and so our dynamic absolutely changed, right? Overnight, we now, we were delivering to 70 something campuses, and now those are all closed, and we're like, how do we get this basic food to these people? And how do we do we have enough money to go buy extra food? Is the numbers going to go up as unemployment creeps up? And so what's the ripple effect of these moments? And again, those families are admitting a different kind of need for help, right? Food and just basic necessities. And so when you have the ability to dive into a nonprofit like that and roll up your sleeves and get dirty, it's an incredible grounding moment to remind you how fortunate you are in basic terms. Forget everything fluffy. Do you have what you need as a family? And if the box is yes, then right now it's go help someone else and go help them check their box for the short term and get them up on their feet. And so, but you have to do it creatively. You can't just walk out the door and, go hug them and go do all the things we used to say was okay. You have to do it much more creatively, but there's still amazing ways to help. And if we learn nothing from interviewing nonprofits for those few years we have, it's there's time, treasure, talent, time, treasure, and talent is always a thing. And now you just have to be way more creative about it. But you have to go do it. You have, if you're checking all the boxes and you're safe, and you can go help others, you just have to. Like, we just have to right now.
Yeah,
And,
we have to. And you know what? People feel like they can't, because when they think about time, treasure, and talent, usually when you think about assisting a nonprofit or someone, you think about treasure. And you go, well, I don't have any money, so I can't help. But we lose sight that the most precious commodity we have as humans is time. Yeah. And you can give time right now. There's actually an abundance of time. Like, treasure is down, but time is way up. We have more time than we've ever had. And so I'm so glad you mentioned that people that think that they cannot help or cannot serve because they don't have the treasure, that's just not true, right? You have so much time that you can give.
Well, everything you're doing around your house could be put into, I needed a haircut. So I said, hey, Ben, I need some help. We're going to go do something, right? But that was just it was just, maybe, who knows how many people see it, but I needed to do it. And I was like, well, it helps somebody while I'm doing it. And so what are other things you can do with that time on your hand that can help others, just small ways, right? And I have customers that are posting in our context, like, hey, the golf cart is a savior right now because we get to it's an escape mechanism for a house. And so they're posting extra social media pictures or extra stuff. And those are little nuggets that help us later get, throw a Google review out, or thank your air conditioning guy that came by that did the work, or, go into Texas Health and, give them a nod on social media because you loved what they did to your, birth of your kid 3 years ago. Or there's so many ways to help small businesses. And then the nonprofits, Frisco Fast Packs, an example, we put note cards in all of our packs that say, hey, have a great day, or have an awesome moment, or like each bag gets one of those note cards. So, art projects forever for, kids at home that can do those things, and they can drop off 10 or 15 cards at our door or mail them to us, and they've helped. And so you got to go find what your passion is out there as a human, a dad, a mom, a teacher, whatever your thing is, and go find that passion and turn that spigot on, even if it's just a little bit. So
yeah, I love it, man. Well, I was debating. So you had your daughter cut your hair, and then I was immediately thinking, well, we're not going to own that as a brand. But then you allowed one of my best people to coach your daughter on how to cut your hair. And now that you did it, and we were part of that, I'm going to own that. That was our work with your daughter, right? We made that happen.
Right. You trained her.
That's right.
Checks the mail every day. She's waiting on her certificate.
Okay, yeah, she's getting one, man. So we're gonna take some credit for that. And you have the added bonus of you are much more aerodynamic in that golf cart that you're riding around in. So
that's right. They're parked here behind us. But
there we go. Okay, before we go, let's see a couple of these carts real quick.
Oh yeah, I don't know where you guys are here, but it's hard to. There we go. There's a nice silver one.
Yeah, there we go.
It's headed.
All
right. That one's headed back up to Frisco, and we've got some more inventory over there. But this is our warehouse. We're down in our Forney location right now, and again, one of those things, you got activities that happen, so you roll up your sleeves as an owner and you come do work. And so I've said forever, if you're going to hire people to do work, you've got to be willing to do it yourself. And I know if you had the skills to cut hair, you would cut hair, but nobody's ever seen those skills in action. To my knowledge.
It's not good. It's not good. Trust me.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
You would try.
I would try. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck in getting your business, just continuing to grow and acquisition, all that good stuff. Good luck on the Frisco ISD. And as soon as I'm able to get out of the house again, I'm going to come see you in Frisco.
All right. Be good. Hey, thanks for having us on, Ben, and have a great week.
You bet, man. See ya.